Wherever you are in the globe, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to LinkedIn Local Philippines Live. We are live on LinkedIn Local Philippines LinkedIn page and YouTube channel. I'm your host, AJ Diocareza, and my co-host is Joy Magallanes. Joy?
Ay, sorry. Sorry, AJ. But going back, there you go. Hello, everyone. So, this event is the fourth corporate education online podcast of BFJ Corporate Educators Community in collaboration with LinkedIn Local Philippines and Mastermind Institute. So, our topic for today is communicating with intention, harnessing the power of purposeful communication.
Now, here's just a few reminders before we start. For those joining us on Zoom, please stay on mute and off cam modes to ensure the audio and video captured will only be that of the speakers and the hosts to ensure the quality of the podcast. Only the guests, the hosts, are encouraged to have their mics and cams on during the live stream. Zoom and StreamYard participants may go on cam after the live stream or during the Q&A at the end of the program.
Also, LinkedIn and YouTube viewers are encouraged to send their questions or greetings that will be read during the live stream at the end of the program, if we still have time. So please stay up until the end for some announcement. Also, please share the LinkedIn Live and YouTube streams with your friends, colleagues, and connections so we can learn together.
Yeah. Now we have a special guest. He's a senior leader and consultant, a speaker, coach, a corporate educator sharing knowledge from real life experiences. He's also part of the John Maxwell team, founded Pivotal Learning and Management Consultancy. So he's a founder. And as you join our session will be introducing you to many things. You'll be understanding the importance of intention in communication. Second, purposeful communication in relationships. What's its importance? You'll discover it. Communicating also with impact in the workplace will be taken up. Also, it will help us to build trust and authenticity as we build relationships. And also, the importance of applying purposeful communication in everyday life. And because of this, you will benefit what again? Joy.
Yeah. So as we go on tonight, we will discover how purposeful communication strengthens relationships, resolves conflicts constructively, enhances influence and leadership, and foster personal growth and empathy. So without further ado, let us all welcome Mr. Jonathan Sagadraca. So Mr. Jonathan, how would you prefer to be called?
Hi Joy, hi AJ. Thank you for the
Oh,
introduction. You can call me Jonas. Just call me Jonas.
Jonas.
okay,
All right.
Jonas. Okay. Let's start with a few basic questions, Jonas. Um, how does being mindful of your intention in communication affect the clarity and effectiveness of your message?
Well, in this world right now that we have, there's a lot of noise, right? Would you agree, Joy, AJ? There's a
Yeah.
lot of noise,
Hmm?
and usually that is where in the corporate world, it's lost in translation, right? There's a lot of words being given out, but really you don't even know what the question is, number one. Number two, what is the intent? of what people are trying to say, right? And most especially for folks who are starting up in their corporate careers, right? They're having a hard time getting into that communication line with the higher ups, right? Um, dun lumalabas yung hiya, right? They're very shy because somehow um, they're not familiar with the language, number one. Probably let's talk about English, right? And number two, they just don't have the confidence, right? So I think this is very important. And let me quote Lisa Sparks when she said, communication is actually the bridge between where you are and where you want it to be, right? So that's very important. And we have seen that because communication is also the first step to networking, right? Networking, not the networking that is very infamous, right? But it's more of networking where you wanted to know people, right? You wanted to be friends with them, right? Um, there's, I think it was, I forgot the name, but uh, there's this famous person who said, poverty is actually the lack of connections, right? And you will not be able to connect if you are not able to communicate very well, right? So, for those people, the dreamers, right, where we want to be, it is very, very important.
Okay, so it's very important, no? So it's very important for us to establish rapport. Am I right?
Well, yes, yes, rapport is basically just, establishing yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, AJ, listen to me, Joy, listen to me, right? And I just wanted to make that a point also. Communication is usually lopsided because the belief is lopsided in the sense that people just focus on how they speak.
Mm-hmm.
They do not focus to the most important part of that process, which is asking the question, is my audience ready to listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do they know the context? Do I have clarity? Do I have the care? Right? And lastly, if they don't have all of those, how will you actually make them or call them for action? Right? So let me summarize that. Um, you can summarize that in 4 C's, right? Clarity, context, the care, and the call to action, right? So 4 C's, right? And
Yes.
if you would only look into how you are able to convey the message, right, with sincerity, with authenticity. And there's a lot of literature written about this. Keith Ferrazzi, for example, in his book Never Eat Alone, right? He did mention that it is very important to be always authentic, always sincere. And this goes out to all of the people who are probably in sales right now, right? Where somehow your clients feel they're attacked. It's because, in LinkedIn, right? And I think you guys experienced this already, right? Kaka-connect pa lang. You just press that or tap that button and then you will get an offer. So, right? So what will the client or the prospect feel? Right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
just connecting with me because you wanted to sell something to me? Know the person first. You don't even know
Yeah.
what he needs, right? So, Joy, ilang na ang nakuha mong ganon?
Parang
Right?
ako po yata yung guilty dun dati.
Okay. So don't do that, right? It is always important for you to secure first the relationship, right? It
Yeah.
is very important for you to always know first, right? Who are you talking to, right? Insurance, for example, right? They're selling papers, right? Paper guarantees, right? And you don't know the person, you sell what? Scholarship or money to fund the education of their kids, right? Without even knowing you're talking to someone who will not be able to have a baby, right? So that in itself is a no-no already. Okay. So again, going back to the first thing that I mentioned, is your audience ready to listen to you? It is very, very important. Okay.
Mm, thank you.
Thank you for that. Now, I have a question, Jonas. So,
Yeah.
what are the common barriers to intentional communications? And parang how can we or they overcome it?
Okay. One belief that you should build in yourself is that people love to interact. That has not changed for the past 2,000 years. People would always love to interact. You know, Uncle Roger, he's out on social media. Do you guys know him? Siya yung
I haven't
nagsabi ng
met I haven't met
emotional
him.
damage.
I haven't met him
Ah,
personally.
yeah.
Si AJ celebrity kasi to eh. So, Uncle Roger, right?
Mm.
He does not have the fluency in English. He also does not have the fluency in Chinese. Or
Mm.
probably he is more fluent in Chinese than English.
Mm.
But how come this person is able to communicate very well, convey the messages, right? That person in YouTube before, I forgot the name again, sorry, senior moments. The person that actually says, right? You know that black guy, he doesn't even speak. Rowan Atkinson made it big without even speaking. Mr. Bean,
Mr. Bean.
right? So people love interaction, whether it be speaking, whether it be, making, movements, right? There is always that need for human beings to interact, right? So how do you overcome that? You have to have that belief. You should not be overshadowed by by your thinking. And again, this is a self-limiting belief. You should not limit yourself in opening your mouth because think totally, you think you will not be able to convey your message. Okay? That is a self-limiting belief. And this is the third time I'm saying it, right? Because that is one of the roots of fear, right? Where nahihiya ako, CEO yan eh. Nahihiya ako, siya yung pinakamataas dito eh. Right? Why? You even don't know what they're feeling. In the elevator, start chatting with people. Okay? Because for sure, they also wanted to chat. Right? And okay, let me focus regionally. In Asia, people love to speak to each other. Right? Comparing it to the other regions of the world, we are chatters, right? And we have to take advantage of that. So it's a self-limiting belief. The fear to speak, it's a self-limiting belief. It's not about your fluency. It's about how you interact, how you smile. Because usually the smile starts everything, right? For all the audiences there, people will surely raise their hand. And when I ask the question, it was during that first smile that you got your partner, right? So it is very important that you have that mindset that humans love interaction. One last point in business. Imagine the corporate world without all those meetings. Yes, it is sometimes annoying already that in a 8-hour or 9-hour shift, you'll be in meetings for 7 hours. Yes, I get that. Okay. I live that. Okay. But what if those meetings were not present? Okay, that's also the reason why Zoom suddenly boomed, MS Teams boomed, right? During the pandemic, because there is that need to communicate. Okay, so for all our listeners, I just want to make mention, right? Who's stopping you? It's only yourself, because you believe that probably people will not listen to me. Who said so? Right? That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Can you provide examples of how misaligned intentions in communication can lead to misunderstandings or conflicts? Do you have any personal experience?
Personal experience, just a
Yeah,
while back, just a while back, right? So finance, right? People from finance,
mhm.
right? Uh, let's let's admit it. Not much interaction really, because they are all into spreadsheets and numbers, right? And I get that, right? Um, I somehow I somehow have to say that, you know what, your tone is not right, right? Because we were chatting. Your tone is not right, and I don't appreciate that tone. So I said, okay, let's stop this for a while. I will make some clarifications on your question. I'll talk to some people, then I'll get back to you. Okay. It's more of making sure that you have that right context. Remember what I said? Four C's. Okay. What is the situation? You cannot just attack people, right? They also won't appreciate it. And me being very open to what I am feeling, I will tell you, I don't appreciate the tone. And somehow we were able to take that out, right, from the equation. We were able to solve the problem. Why and how? Well, I made it a point to tell him that, number one, your tone is not right. Number two, looks like you are not reading what I just said. And this is chat, right? And somehow that clarified things. The next time that he chatted, it was all good already. It's like we are best friends again, right? And we were able to solve that issue. So it is very important also to know, and you're asking about challenges. It's very important also to know what the other person is feeling. Again, your audience. It's not you communicating, it's them listening. So you have to set that path every time. You have to clear that path so that the messages are conveyed properly. It goes to the expressway of communication, right?
So I see this that it's not limited to face-to-face communication,
It
right?
is not. It is not. It
Yeah,
is not.
it's applicable to everything.
To everything. Actually, you know what, AJ? I'm one person who I would say can talk to anybody, right? Mainly because, I don't limit myself. Every interaction for me is learning. Okay? Um, Baka sabihin niyo daming nangyayari sa buhay ko during the mornings. Yes, that is true. Right? So before I slept earlier, and I did night shift, right? Before I slept earlier, I went to the car wash, right? And no, not the car wash first. Okay, that was this afternoon. So I went to Petron Car Care Center. I need to do the change oil, the real change oil. Okay, Joy, tatawa ka na naman. Okay, uh, I had the SUV had his oil changed, and during that engagement, there were some customers that came into the lounge, right? One was having a problem with his car's air conditioning because she's saying, it's flooding inside, right? And I said, hi ma'am, probably can ask that other person to just get a hose of air, plug it into that little hose in your air conditioner so that all the water there will be taken out. You know what? That worked. And she was very thankful. And you don't know that, right? If I did not open my mouth during that time, maybe she could have spent what, 35,000 in the in a Toyota franchise, right? How do you call that? Casa, right? So you don't even know how you can help another person. So what is stopping you? If you are helping another person, what is stopping you? Okay? that is one item, and I always talk about this. How come Filipinos, and I know there are some foreigners listening also. How come Filipinos, if you ask them to enter an auditorium, an empty auditorium, how come they go to row number 5, row number 6, row number 7, even though 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4 are vacant? Make sense? You've seen that, right? In high school, in college, you have seen that. My question is why? You don't want to be called? Well, the secret is, if you don't want to be called, go to row number 1. Because the eyes of the person on stage will actually go to row number 4. Right? So I don't know. And I hope we are educating people right now. These are hacks or tips, right? But the most important thing here is, let us not limit ourselves. We have our own unique talents, skills, and capabilities. And sometimes, or most of the time, people don't even know what your skills are. Right? And who knows? You are the person they're looking for. Right? So there.
You.
Since you already talk about relationships,
Okay.
let's go to this another topic of purposeful communication in relationships. So my first question is, how does purposeful communication contribute to building trust and strengthening personal relationships?
You have to communicate to connect. Right? Whether it be in speech, whether it be in action.
Mhm.
Okay? There's no other way. Okay?
It's
You,
communication.
you cannot just send a text message and you expect the other person to connect with you. Nope, doesn't happen. Right? So one thing to always remember, right? You have to have that want or need to connect to other people. How to make it easy? Well, you have to be very sincere and authentic. Okay, a lot of the people here, in the BFJ team, um, in this broadcast right now, all of you guys, look back when you first met your partner, right? And how did you connect, right? So it can be a simple, office chat, and after a few days of not being able to sleep because you are really wanting to, go to the next level,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-mm.
Connection is very important. And if you are able to communicate that want for connection, actually, that will seal that network that you want, that connection that you want, that relationship that you want, right? So you just have to what? Open your mouth or smile, right? Sometimes just a shake of hand or a simple hug. We call it what in Filipino, beso beso, right? You don't know where that will bring you. But what is the most important thing that you have to do? You have to take action, right? Now, again, let me cite Never Eat Alone. It's a book by Keith Ferrazzi. Um, he talked about Ford, Ford, right? Because usually when we ask people, hey, can you talk to that person and introduce yourself, do some networking, connect with that person. The first question that the person would that you are asking to do that would be, what will I say? Tama mali, right? How will I start, right? Well, there's this acronym that Keith Ferrazzi mentioned. It's FORD, Ford. Okay, you can talk about family. Okay, in my discussions, I always talk about my kids because they're all crazy, right? You sometimes, or most of the time, you see how you were when you were a kid in your kids, right? Office, right? office will always be a very interesting topic, right? Recreation, right? When I hear someone talking about, big bikes, well, I will join that conversation, right? When someone talks about mountaineering, I will also be in that group, right? So that's R. And lastly, dreams. What are their dreams? Because that is something where those are conversation starters. So you have to have that ready question every time. I was telling my folks recently, you know what? When we are having these meetings, please, they're from the US. Stop asking them about the weather. Stop asking them about their flight because you're meeting them on the second day already. They've had this. They were already able to answer questions about their flight 10, 20 times already. So, come up with something else. Tumatawa ka, AJ. Tama ba? Right? It's always, how was your flight? Come on. And they already have their templated answer, which is, yeah, it's uneventful. Probably, yeah, right? You took the airline, the safest way of transportation, right? So more often than not, 99.99%, okay, it's uneventful. Unless if they have something to say about the food, right? Okay. So always look into how you can connect, how you will be throwing yourself into them, right? And always be interesting, right? Always put on that smile because people will not talk to grumpy folks. You know what I mean?
No, regarding connection,
Mhm.
this is a very important aspect or an element.
Mhm.
What role does empathy play in purposeful communication, and how can it be cultivated in our interactions?
Okay.
Kasi empathy can help connect, 'di ba?
Right. Right.
Mm.
I wouldn't even talk about empathy. I would talk, about emotions, which actually covers empathy, right? For example, you know, we go to the mall, AJ, and in yourself that you have a lot of daddy jokes, right? And when you throw out those jokes, I'm not laughing. Okay? It's either your joke is corny, okay? Or I did not understand your joke, right? Call the second one stupidity. Right? So the point is, if you are able to respond to emotions, you're good. Okay? You can carry out conversations. Okay? Do not be so selfish. Do not be so selfish. I am seeing the chat of bless stupidity. Don't be so selfish thinking of what you feel, what you feel in yourself alone. Okay? You have to think about how does he feel, right? So, and that is where emotions come in. If you're able to respond with those emotional callings, you're good. And what I'm saying here is, respond. Either, hey, okay, that's a joke. I should be laughing. Okay. Or you did not understand the joke, but who knows that you did not understand a joke? It's only you, right? So you can just smile or laugh, right? Because you know what? The next thing there would be another joke and another joke and another joke, right? Just imagine talking to, say, the senior vice president of a certain company. And there's a lot of quirks with, culture differences and all those stuff, right? Most of the time, you really don't know what he's talking about. But the point is it important? What is important is you responding. Responding with a laugh, okay? Responding with, okay, sorry. I know jokes are not, should not be explained, but can you say that again? I may have misheard or, did not hear something of what you said. You just have to respond, right? And again, when you get into that boardroom after, that walk to the boardroom, that becomes a topic of conversation. And that joke will be repeated. You get my point? So it is very important. It's not only empathy, it's actually the whole emotional thing. You have to respond,
So
right?
it's not ano no. You said that emotion encompasses empathy,
Yeah,
or is empathy is under emotion? Am I right?
that is correct. That is correct. So you need not even think about empathy only or sympathy. Okay. What is important is that you recognize an emotional calling. Okay. And you just have to respond. Either you liked it or you did not like it. Make it clear.
Mm.
Right. Especially, when it comes to daddy jokes, right? There are some green stuff there, right? Um, and you cannot just take that away because that's part of the daddy joke culture, right? You just have to respond. And maybe you have offended someone, then that person tells you, oops, that's offensive. And just say, oops, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really don't intend to offend you. Something like that. Right? It's bantering already. And a lot of people when asked, can you please just banter, especially in trainings, let's banter, let's have that exchange. I'm really weirded out when people are not responding. Okay? So you just have to respond. Right? What would you feel if I did not respond to your messages recently?
Well,
Snub to
well,
si
I'll
John. Ayoko nang kausap to. Right? So we will not have that connection, AJ. Right? When
mhm.
I did not ask Joy a while back to smile, probably she won't be at ease with me right now. Is that right, Joy?
But your
Yeah.
smile helped.
Yeah, smile. The smile is very important, honestly. Okay?
Yeah. So I have another question. So can you share specific techniques or like strategies for practicing purposeful communication in romantic relationships or friendships?
Romantic relationships. Okay.
Or
Um,
friendships.
or friendships. Well,
Mm.
I think, the most important thing when it comes to relationships or friendship is the trust, right? So you have to establish that trust. One way of doing that in this topic of communication, if you say you will do it, right? You have to be a trusted partner to that other person. Okay? If it will be delayed, say it, right? Again, you are not only connecting now, you are on the second level of establishing trust. And if you're not able to make yourself credible, that's a problem. Okay? So you have to have that credibility. Okay? You have to build that trust. How you do it through communication? Make sure that everything that goes out of your mouth is sincere and authentic. And you follow through with it. Right? So, for example, you wanted to date a lady, right? Come on, guys, do some research first, right? Don't just go and attack, right? Again, knowing your enemy is winning half of the battle, right? So you do some research, okay? No one knows, not even her would know that you're already stalking her, right? So do some research. Have that effort. Hindi pwedeng gwapo lang, right? Hindi pwedeng gwapo lang, hindi pwedeng mayaman lang. Right? You have to make sure that you are ready to engage. And when you are ready to engage, that means you are able to throw out some little nice things, little nice words that will actually make him react. Say, for example, you're walking in the mall. There's a flower shop, right? Um, you just, you grab the hand or the arm of the lady and say, okay, move away from that because I know you're allergic to that particular flower, right? Maraming lalaki nakikinig ngayon. Okay? What would the girl, the lady, feel when you do that? Oh, how did you know that? Right? So it's actually effort, right? It talks about effort. You really took effort in knowing that particular item, right? After mo magpuyat sa IG niya, sa FB niya, sa Friendster niya, right? So all those stuff, they will have results, right? You just have to put some effort there.
Now I have a question. I have a question to for Joy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So please do your research first.
Yeah.
Build trust. Establish trust first.
Pero
And yeah,
Friendster talaga, no?
Ikaw na
you know what?
inabutan, sorry.
To tell you honestly, I have all the logins and accounts in all the other platforms, but I don't open them. I'm only into LinkedIn and Facebook, right? And that is what you call specificity, because I also have my intentions and I'm more active on LinkedIn other than anything else because it's a mine of knowledge.
Okay. Now, from the heart, the
Mhm.
romantic, and from the romantic part, let's go naman to the workplace.
Okay.
So, how can purposeful communication enhance collaboration and teamwork in the professional setting?
Okay, and you introduced me by saying I actually talk about real life experiences, right? Okay, so let me give you something that happened 6 months back, right? Where it was my first day, so I was led to the boardroom, right? And there goes HR. They're very proactive. They would teach you everything about your salary, about where to go, who to contact, what are the trainings, all those stuff, right? And I know this particular group we have, a lot of them are actually HR people, right? So no one will disagree with what I said. Now, so 15 minutes into the discussion, and that's a 2-hour discussion. Okay. I told the HR lady, I said, okay, is that something that, probably you can do for me for the next couple of days, right? Like logging in, right? Yes, I can do the fingerprints, no problem, the biometrics upon entering the floor, right? And I told the lady, if you can just call my team, I wanted to know my team, right? And what was your question? What is the most important word in that question?
Enhancing collaboration.
There. If you make it a point that you are interested, and I was authentically interested, right? I wanted to meet the people that I'll be working with because that's my main mission. That's the reason why I'm there. Okay? I will not spend my time, and I'm not saying it is not important. It is important, but what I'm saying is you can delay those. You go into the priority. Know your people first. Because if you know your people, it will be very, very easy for you. I'm telling you. And right now, I don't know if someone logged in from my team, they would agree, right? They would agree. Um, a lot of times in corporate, we are very proud that I have all this certification 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Naubos na isang bond paper, puro certification, puro trainings, right? Kulang na lang ilagay mo, idikit mo ron yung diploma mo, right? If you do that, the only answer that you will get from them is, so what? We don't care about your past. Let me ask you, AJ, when was the last time that you think your transcript of records were seriously reviewed? When was the last time?
I can't remember anymore.
There. People are more interested on who you are, how you communicate with them, how you connect with them. It's not about all the accomplishments, right? We don't care if you won, in a TV show, right? We don't care if you are a graduate of Harvard University. What we care about is who you are and how do you relate with us. Okay? Take note. That in itself is communication. And that happened. That is real life. That is real story.
Mm-mm. So if we already know, you already know your people. So can you share us some approaches? What are effective and resolving workplace conflicts, which has at the core of its communicating purpose?
Okay, conflicts. Conflicts arise mainly because you're you're thinking differently versus the person you're battling with, right? Now, it will always happen. We are all unique. We want it to be unique. So there will always be that battle. Plus a pinch of ego. Yes or no? Right? There's that pinch of ego every time. Sometimes a spoonful of ego. Okay? You you have you have to first set that expectation. Okay, let's settle this, right? What do you want? And here's what I want. Right? I honestly, when there's conflict, there's no such thing as a winner. It will always be a compromise. You know, always look for that middle ground. Okay, always assume that that other person will not be backing out with his opinion. So always look for that middle ground and work towards that. If you wanted to have that conflict resolved ASAP, go to that at once. What can you give? What can you take? Same thing for the other person. What can you give? What can you take? Now, here's the most important thing in resolving those conflicts. Take out emotions. Use logic. In that particular situation, and we're talking about corporate, the question is corporate. Take out emotions. And I'm telling you, 51% of the problem is solved already. Okay? Because sometimes people are just fired up. All right? And we know, right? We have a lot of marites. Okay? Mare, anong latest? Right? They accidentally listen to that on their way to the office. Right? Or a text message. Right? So darating yan sa office, all fired up already. And there goes the conflict. That person goes straight to the other person. What are you saying? Blah, 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 blah. Hindi pa nga nakakapagkape yung isa. Right? So, you have to make sure that you have to be very intentional. Again, I'm using the term. You have to be very intentional that you wanted to resolve the conflict. Because kung pumunta ka doon para makipag-away, you will not be able to resolve conflict. So, make it a point, make it a habit, or actually build that culture within your team that everyone is always looking for the solution. Okay? BPOs are like this right now. We operate globally. Right? But what company do we carry? Kasi a lot of time, a lot of time is wasted on battling it out with another office in another country. Why are you working? It's because of your clients, right? Okay, say for example, the company name is Enigma. Always look for that opportunity to advertise one enigma. Just one. It's not about where you sit in the world. Whether you be, sitting by the beach in Barbados, right? Work in an office in Costa Rica, you're just one company. And people usually forget that. Why? Because of that spoonful of ego that they have injected in those communication paths. Does that make sense?
Yep. So let go of ego and become objective, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Be objective.
Take out the emotions. Take out the emotions.
Now, when it comes to leadership naman,
Mm-hmm.
in what ways can purposeful communication skills positively influence leadership, communication, and
There's
inspire
Yeah,
leaders?
there's a lot. That's a loaded question, mainly because you have mentioned leadership influence, right? And Dr. John C. Maxwell said, right? Leadership is nothing but influence, nothing more, nothing less, right? And I may be advertising right now because I'm also from the John Maxwell team, right? So the point is, you would want to always leverage on communicating positive things to your team, right? Number two, not only positive, you have to be very transparent. You have to be very true. Again, kahit gaano mo lokohin yung mga yan, alam nila kung anong nangyayari. Tama, mali. Hinihintay lang nilang lumabas sa bibig mo. They're just waiting for the words to come out of your mouth. We had the directors meeting happen last week. And that was one of the questions, right? How do you communicate bad news, right? And still be influential, right? So I quickly answered, yeah, give them feelers, right? If there's a bad news that is coming in a month's time, right? Put out feelers already. Tell it to someone. Tell it to the speaker of the house in the group. And let it stay there for what? 30 days. So that when you announce the bad news, it's not news for them anymore. It's just a confirmation. And they have prepared for it. They have heard it 1,000 times already from their peers. There's nothing to battle out, right? So it is very important to always be transparent, always be sincere, always be authentic. Do not come up with promises that you cannot follow through. Okay? Do not advertise yourself too much. It's not helping you. Because if you're able to influence people, they will follow you wherever you go. Does that answer your question, AJ?
Yep. Thank you very
But
much.
it relates with overcoming fears now. So how does purposeful communication foster trust and authenticity in relationship? And why are these qualities important?
Well, they are the main ingredients. I talked about the communication path, right? They are the asphalt, they are the cement, right? They are the paint, right? Um, and when we talk about authenticity, Joy, you wouldn't want to talk to me if I'm telling you lies, right?
Yeah.
And you would know that I'm lying if I'm not well, if I'm not if I am cascading impossible things, right? If I'm delivering news to you that is impossible or near impossible, right? So
Mm.
again, credibility is very important. You have to be very authentic in the sense that you really wanted to connect, okay? And when you want to connect, make sure that you are sincere. Sabi nga nila, kung magsisinungaling ka, dapat ang talas ng memory mo. Right? Why? Pag nagsinungaling ka during your first conversation, if you lied during your first conversation, And again, that topic came out after 2, 3 days, and you answered differently. How does that hit your credibility? A lot. That totally destroys you, right? So these things are very important. They are actually binded together, right, to create that purposeful communication. You know what? A lot of times people wanted to wanted to hide their real life stories to cover up things. Correct? They don't want that to be known. But what they don't know is that people are very much interested in your story. And that's all over the place. That's all over LinkedIn, right? I posted several of those items talking about your story, right? Your story is very important. That is where inspiration comes in, right? Remember that story where John Maxwell said, in the next weekend in church, there will be 300 people. And when they did the head count come that day, they only had 299. And the assistant pastor told John, yeah, probably we can, we can start now, right? Because we already have 289, 299. We have enough. And Dr. Maxwell said, no, I committed 300. So let me go out. Give me 5, 10 minutes. I will look for that person who wants to join us in our church and let him be the 300th person. And that's what he did. Right? So it was already a failure to only do 299. But what he did as a leader of that small church was very inspiring. What he did, he went out. He invited people in, and he got one, grabbed the arm of that person, and brought him in the church. The words that he threw out where he said, you know, this weekend we will have 300 people in our church. It became true. And that was the inspiration for a lot of people. Now look at that church. We even have conferences in Orlando twice a year, right? It's not about the church anymore or the church alone. It's about the following, about leadership development around the world. 70-year-old guy, loves Coke Zero, lives a very boring life, according to him, right? But he follows through with what he is saying or what he said. Very important. It's a mix of authenticity, relating to people, talks about sincerity. You say it, you commit to it, you do it. Okay. And that becomes the ingredients to more influence. And again, leadership is nothing but influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. So it's very important, no? What we say, what we teach, we also do. We also apply. So when it comes
Walk the
to,
talk. Walk the
yeah,
talk.
walk the talk. Mm-hmm. Now you have shared a lot of things already, Jonas. Now, with regards to application,
Mhm.
how can purposeful communication techniques be integrated into our daily conversations, especially with family and close friends?
Well, it's a good follow-up question to what we just talked about, right? The follow-throughs, right? And as a parent, right, this is a challenge for me, right? Where we wanted people to follow, right, without even recognizing the generation that we are dealing with right now, right? Which is totally different. right? I get a lot of questions from my kids about, how come you do this way, Dad? How come you do it that way? And it all goes back to history. But one thing very important when you try to apply purposeful communication in the family, and they are your allies, they will be forever your allies, right? You just have to be very, very intentional in the sense that you are committing. Okay, you are not just asking them to do stuff, right? And sometimes, yeah, accept it, sometimes you will fail, right? But you always have to go back in that track where if you want them to be led into a particular direction, you have to be walking with them. That is being intentional, that is being purposeful, right? um Thanks to all the schools around Metro Manila, right? They can speak very well, and I'm proud of that, right? Now the mission is, how can we make, or I told them this, right? The next mission is that since you now know how to communicate, you guys are very fluent. The next mission now is, how can you get people to intently listen to you if you are speaking? Okay, it's not a problem about their communication, but it's a problem of, okay, how can I be influential, how can I be inspiring, how can I be that person where if I start opening my mouth, people will listen, right? My story, AJ, I cannot even speak fluent English mid high school, right? And it was just that intentional thing in me that I said, okay, you know what? If I will stay this way, I'm very shy. I don't even want to open my mouth during that time. It was very pivotal, and that's the reason why that's the name of my company. It was a very pivotal example when they asked me to sing the Panatang Makabayan, or
Would you like to do it?
not sing, sorry, not sing.
It's like
Recite the Panatang
recite.
Makabayan. Iniibig ko
Yeah.
ang Pilipinas. Ito ang aking lupang sinilangan.
Na-
Okay, so I almost cried, mainly because I fear the audience. But come that realization, I cannot be this way all throughout my life. And that's when I started reading the billboards aloud. I studied in Quezon City. We lived in Novaliches in Caloocan City. That's an hour drive. That's a lot of time to practice, right? I finished physical therapy, but my first job was broadcast journalism. I became a broadcast journalist. Okay. Ironically, a person who cannot even speak during third year high school. First job, broadcast journalist. And by the way, I made sure that I am heard. Why? You may ask. Well, I became the Coliseum announcer for the Philippine Basketball League, right? I was heard by all those people in that Coliseum. I should not go wrong, right? And that became a practice for me, right? So going back, as a parent, you just have to walk with them. And you know what? I'm guilty. Sometimes I don't walk with them. Not literally walk with them, but lead them to that path. Okay? It's not enough for you to just walk the talk, right? You have to walk while talking with them. Okay? Now, there is also one thing, and I discussed this with, one of my clients over dinner. And the problem in the workforce right now is we wanted them to know the why. And it's aligned to that book from Simon Sinek, you know, start with why. I get that. But why is a mindset, another mindset. If you are dealing with beginners, don't start with why. Start with how. Teach them first how they do it until they start realizing, start recognizing how it's done, and they start asking why. Why am I doing this if I can do this? Okay. So there.
Thank you very much. Joy?
Nakinig masyado si Joy.
Yeah, ang ganda.
Ang
Ganda.
ganda.
Speechless. Sabi nga ni Miss Bless, I'm really speechless. You know, ang dami ko pong natutunan. And to, tawag dito, to summary this topic, no? Parang I learned a lot. We learned a lot, as well as the listeners. I'm very sure marami rin silang natutunan. So if we're going to summary this topic today, so communicating with intention and harnessing the power of purposeful communication. So we understand the importance of intention, you know, the purposeful of communication in relations. Also, the communicating with impact in the workplace. We also tackled, and I also know, the building trust and being authentic. And lastly, applying purposeful communication in everyday life. So to summary the topic, I bet marami talagang natuto. How about you, Kuya EJ? Do you have any takeaways?
Well, for me, my takeaways are purpose is very important when communicating with others. So, intention matters. And although you have an intention, it should be clear and also understandable, relatable. Others can relate to it. And I also saw the importance of trust, building trust. And you can do this if you continue practicing purposeful communication,
True.
no? And also, very important, like what Jonas just shared about John Maxwell and even himself, no? Even Jonas. He applied, they applied what they teach in their daily lives. They walk the talk and they talk while they walk. So, anybody here in our group right now would like to share their key takeaways?
Siguro, I have additional key takeaways. Medyo nagta-type kasi ako kanina, tapos nakikinig kasi talaga ako. So, you know, siguro yung pinaka key takeaways ko, yung don't limit yourself. Yun talaga yun eh, when communicating. Kasi parang doon tayo, nagli-limit tayo. Also, I really like the conversation starters, the Ford, the family, office, recreation, and dreams. And sabi nga nila, yun nga, prioritize with walking with the family, lead, and walk.
Ayun.
And,
So,
and
any
just to add, you know that book coming from Rick Warren, right? It was a bestseller. You remember?
No, pero I'm
purpose-driven?
going to read it.
Yeah.
There's a
Purpose-driven
salary.
life.
Purpose-driven life.
Yeah. So come to think of it, right? The message in that book, convert it into communication, convert it into intention. So instead of purpose-driven life, instead of starting there, always think about intention-driven communication. That will save you a lot of time. That will save you a lot of words. If you have that intention very, very clear, if you have that context, you have that, you can promote that clarity in how you talk, right? If you care, again, And lastly, if you are very clear with a call to action, the 4 C's, very important. Okay. It will make you successful in your venture towards connecting, networking, and developing these strong relationships. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonas. Now, should we ever want to, actually, we want to connect with you. So, if anybody would like to connect with you, how can we do so? How can we get in touch with you or where?
You know what? You just connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. That's it. I'll be speaking in August and September every Monday. All right. So there's a company that got me. So all the other days that well, there will be small gigs, but just we can work the schedule out. If you wanted to work with me, developing your crew, developing yourself, right? Just send me a short message and I will reply. Okay.
No. So, thank you very much. Now, before we end, we would just like to acknowledge the following individuals: um, Coach Ariel Tolentino, Lord Marcelino, and also Bless Baluyot, who's with us also right now, and also Masterminds Institute for making this event possible. So, thank you everyone for attending our learning session for tonight, for this evening. And I hope that we all learned a lot from Mr. Jonas, or Coach. Should we call you Coach? No, not. Okay. So see you around, and God bless.
Thank you, guys.